Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Super duper exciting to see so many of you pouring in. I was really pumped to see the feedback that this webinar promotion got from all of you. And we're going to get started here in just a moment. I usually like to give everyone a minute, 2 minutes. You're probably hopping in from another meeting. Maybe you're grabbing your drink. I've got my water right here, or depending on where you are or time of day, whatever that looks like for you. Thank you all so much for being here. And welcome. Welcome to 10 in 10. 10 rapid fire event marketing strategies in just 10 minutes. I'm super excited to get this kicked off. Again, we're just giving everyone a couple minutes to join in, and we're going to talk all about our strategies. In fact, the way that this webinar is going to go is we're going to spend 10 minutes on the tips, and then we're going to open it up for a live Q&A, and that can last as long as you need it to go. Of course, till the top of the hour, but we will spend 10 minutes on our strategies, and then we're going to open it up for a live Q&A, and I'm super excited about that. You can ask all the questions that you have, the most pressing, burning questions around marketing an event that maybe you have upcoming, or maybe one you're thinking about, or general questions around the topic. Let's get our fingers warmed up, because I know a lot of us are going to be asking questions throughout the session. So there's two avenues where you can do just that. The first is going to be the Q&A box. So if you're looking at the little panel that Zoom shares with you, you should see mute, stop video, or something along those lines, Q&A, and chat. Q&A is for where you can ask your questions throughout today's session. Again, we're going to have a live Q&A at the end of the session. There's also a chat box. I like when chats are relatively focused on your comments, your questions, any thoughts that you have. Use the chat for that. You can use the chat to ask questions as well, but it'll be a lot easier on us to filter through all of your questions if you use the Q&A box. It'll also ensure we do not miss any of your questions. So if you want to go ahead and get your fingers going, feel free to share with me in the chat where you're calling in from and what your expectations are. What's something that you're hoping to learn in today's session? Maybe a thought that you have on events, if you've tried them or not, whatever it is you'd like to share. Again, you can do that in the chat box. And then as you have questions throughout the session, you can use the Q&A button on the panel. All right, now today's 10 strategies are based on a few different things. Number one, they're based on a lot of trial and error that we have done here at White Glove. We've hosted over 40,000 advisor workshops over the years, some in person, some virtually, and we've learned a lot along the process. They're also from secrets from some of the best hosts in this space. So advisors hosting events that are really successful. I was just on the phone with one of my favorite ones last week, picking his brain so I could make sure I got as much good content for you for today's webinar. So again, lots of trial and error, what successful advisors are doing in this space, and data. And some of this data I actually have in the slides for you. Yes, you will get a copy of my slides. You're also going to get a recording of this call because it is being recorded. The last thing I'll say before we jump right into our tips, and I'm going to set my timer here because I promised you 10 minutes, quick introduction to myself. So my name is Diana Cabrices. I'm the chief evangelist here at White Glove, and I've spent my entire career educating financial advisors on how to grow their businesses through marketing, through events, through digital marketing, also through branding, technology, succession planning, M&A, recruiting. I have a deep passion for the profession. I live with the financial advisor. I am immersed in your world, and I love getting to equip you with the strategies that you need to really grow your business. So I'm super excited to be here. And with that, we're going to take this off. One quick note, all of these tips today, they apply to hosting educational workshops, AKA seminars, but they can also be applied if you're really looking to go more of the digital route, so the virtual webinar route. And we're going to talk about that throughout the tips. They're also good depending on if you want to work with White Glove in the future on an event, or if you want to do events on your own. These tips apply to you. They will be helpful to you no matter what. I'll do one quick browse of the chat before we get started. It looks like some of you are from Texas, Alabama, California, Philly. We are all across the map. Super exciting. And it looks like our numbers have evened out, which means most of you are here and you're ready to get going. So I'm going to stop talking about all this other stuff. Let's get right to the tips. And our first tip, as I set my timer, because guys, I really do love to talk, but I promised you 10 minutes here. Our first tip is opting for the right venue. The thing about venues is that different venues for an event, they send different messages. What we've seen through the workshops that we've hosted at White Glove and just through general data, some of the best performing venues scream, here's where you're going to get educated, right? Here's where you come to learn. So what are those places? The library, the local community center. And usually, guys, these places are free to host events. Now, the worst places to host an event to try to get prospects to engage with you would be your office or a space attached to your office. The reason for this is because people immediately think, okay, there's something to be sold here. It's a place of business. It's a transactional place. Poor performing venues, although, it really depends on where you're at and the marketing of it all, the hotel, the business centers, those can do okay. Now, the numbers you see below, the fulfillment rate, that's basically out of how many people we invited to attend an event with one of our advisors, how many people actually showed up. So you can see the library and the community center garnered over 93% on average of people to show up. So that's a pretty good fulfillment rate. All right, the second tip here is choose in-demand topics. The rule of thumb, stay general. You will cast a wider net. You will also reach more people. Why? Because more general topics that impact everyone are going to get more eyeballs and more engagement. For example, estate planning, taxes. These are things that everyone needs help with. Social Security, for example. Every American in this space needs help with this. It doesn't matter if you're 3 million investable assets or you're 250K investable assets. With an estate plan, you need to be able to say, here's what happens with these assets when I pass away, and here's how they are, given to my family or any beneficiaries that I have. Worst topics, product, very product specific, scare tactics. I hate scare tactics with events, RMDs, and politically charged topics. So again, cast that wider net. Let's say you work with tech executives and you really want to host an event or a webinar on tech executives. You could technically try it. Now, if you have an email list of, say, 1,000 tech executives, I'd say go for it. You're probably going to have some good success with that. But otherwise, it is good to cast a wider net. You never know who somebody knows. That's another thing to think about here. Tip number 3 is market to multiple channels. I like to say that all roads lead to Rome, except when they don't exist. So when people have no idea about your event because you're not targeting them or giving them that road, if you will, to travel down to sign up for your event, then you're not going to get the turnout that you deserve. What are some of these places that you can get into your channels here for marketing? Social media, obviously. And I put a graphic here. Again, you're going to get these slides, but you'll be able to see here what are the best platforms for my audience. If you're targeting retirees or pre-retirees, right? There's a lot of that on Facebook. And in general, the mass affluent of America is on Facebook. But you could also be targeting younger generations, and maybe Instagram is a better strategy for you. So do think about that. Event sites and pages like Eventbrite or Meetup. LinkedIn has event pages. Facebook has event pages. You want to put your event in as many places as possible. Prospects hang out in different areas. So if you put your event in as many places as possible, you'll cast a wider net. Your email list, I would even argue a mailer list if you can go that route. We help our advisors with that at White Glove, and even get creative. Contact the Chamber of Commerce. If you're doing something that impacts business owners, perhaps they'd be open to marketing your event. All right, tip number 4 is to call your registrants. A friendly phone call goes a long way, but it's also where you're planting the seeds ahead of time to start building that relationship. You're giving that human to human interaction. We say at White Glove, you should call about 2 times before the event. If they answer on the first time and already confirm, you don't need to call them again. But our advisors actually aren't picking up the phone and calling. Our hosts who work with us, we call for them. We pretty much do everything for them. They show up and give a great presentation. But if you're doing this on your own and you want to call, here's what you can say. Thank you so much for coming. We cannot wait to see you. We're really excited to meet you and all the other people that have registered, right? Start to create a little bit of that FOMO. If they're thinking about maybe not coming, remind them of where the location is. Anything else they need to be aware of. Parking, for example, or if there's any traffic that might happen because of a local event, like you're downtown and there's a baseball game. These are absolutely things that you should be sharing with them on the phone. All right, our next tip is to sport the name tags. Now, this is when you're at the event. And another way you can do this, if you're doing it virtually like a webinar, guys, is you can have people chime in on the chat and say their name and say where they're from, and you call out their name as you talk on your presentation. I normally do that, but I've got 10 minutes today, so I don't have a lot of time. Get personal with your attendees with the name tag. I like to say these are psychological bridges. Why? It's not just calling somebody's name, which is just a sound to their ear. It's literally resonating with their identity. This is the same reason why emails that have your name in the subject line perform so well, because it gets very personal with you. Also, it gives your attendees ways to look left and look right and say, okay, I'm next to John or I'm next to Katie. I want to have a conversation with this person. Now I know their name and I can do that. That is really powerful. You don't want people just there for you. You want them because they're there in community. People long for community. All right, tip number 6 is start with a story. So this is about your presentation, but don't just start with any story. Now, I am a trained public speaker. I'm a keynote speaker, and this is something that I incorporate into my own presentations. Very, very important. So here's what I mean by that. You're going to get up on that stage, whether virtually or in person. And the first thing you are not going to do is you are not going to say, I'm Diana, and this is what I do, and here's my creds, and I've been in business for this long, and I'm a CFP and a fiduciary and a CHFC and all those designations that you have, which are important, but that's not where we're going to start. Instead, we want to talk about something relatable to the topic. So if we're hosting something on estate planning, maybe you show a video about the Aretha Franklin debacle or Prince and all that crazy drama that happened with their estate plans. And then you can start talking about estate planning in general, why it's important to them. And then you talk about yourself, where your expertise lies. So it's a conduit to your introduction. It's just like a great website. It never starts about you. It starts about how you're going to help them, and then it talks about you. Okay, tip number 7. I've got my eye on my timer here, guys. But tip number 7 is to include visuals. This is so very important. Imagine I was giving you all of these tips right now, rapid fire hose down your throat with no slides. It would be super overwhelming. But here's some data to back this up. 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. 65% of people, around 60 to 65, are visual learners, right? And we can process images in 13 milliseconds. So there's 2 ways to go about this in your presentation. And by the way, if you do this with White Glove, we actually pair you up with experts that create presentations for you. So you don't have to do it by yourself. But I love this example that Mason, one of our hosts, gave on a webinar that he hosted with us on taxes and retirement. He's got these sort of 4 buckets here so people can visualize the 4 tax buckets. And he's not just listing on a bullet point, taxable, tax deferred, tax-free, etc. Another way to do this is with copy. If you do have a lot of text to share, that's okay too. You see here how I've made in really big letters my key points. That's what you want to do. And then you want to minimize the details. All right, tip number 8 is avoid generic calls to action. People came to your event for a reason. They probably do want to have a follow-up meeting with you, but instead of just saying book a meeting with me, which is super generic, it's not tangible, frankly, it focuses just on the process, right? We want to talk about what they're going to get out of that. By the way, this doesn't just apply to your event's call to action. This applies to all of your marketing calls to action, your website, your email list, all the above. Tangible, book an estate clarity visit. Schedule your free financial health checkup. This is much better. It's more tangible and it's more compelling, and it's going to get more people to take action with you because there's something there in it for them. The word free is especially powerful in marketing. That's just psychology. Tip number 9 is the sticky note method. This is my favorite method ever. It works. At the end of your presentation, if you're doing this in person, you're going to tell the room, hey, it would be impossible to schedule across all of your calendars right now. So we've made it easy. I've handpicked a few appointments from my calendar, from my team's calendar that we've opened up specifically for you. And in the back of the room, we've put them on sticky notes on a whiteboard. Grab whichever one works for you. Give it to the person at the door who's helping us with the event. We'll be sure to send you a digital follow-up. People rave about the sticky note method. It's social proof in action. When one person stands up to get their sticky note, the rest of the people will follow suit. All right, tip number 10. I've got a little bit of time here. Consider partnering up. Events work, but the advisors who are really thriving with events have partnered up, whether it's a consultant, whether it's a company like White Glove, whatever that looks like for you. There's a lot of data on this. And I love Michael Kitces. I love his data. Back in 2021, he put out a study on how financial advisors actually market themselves. What we found is seminars and webinars and events in general can be very, very fruitful, high revenue, new clients, new distribution that you would have never had before, but they can also plummet if you're doing it with trial and error. So that's really important. We've done the trial and error for you. My advice here is to partner with experts in the space. There's too much risk in an event when you do event marketing. And so you want to minimize or hedge that risk, if you will, by partnering with someone who does this for a living, right? Who has done this time and time again. Okay, we're going to summarize all of our points. I went over about 10 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm pretty darn proud of that. But before we summarize these points, if all of this is top of mind for you right now and you're thinking, I want to host a seminar or I want to host a webinar, then go ahead and type the word seminar in the chat. I've got somebody on the line with me right now, and we're going to send you back a personalized calendar link where you can choose a one-on-one time that works for you. And we're going to talk about your location, because that's the one thing I didn't talk about today. Is all of these tips matter, but there's something else that matters as well. And that is based on where you are. Is the market saturated? What does the average household income look like? What about investable assets in a 20-minute radius from your house? We have all of this data through our proprietary technology. We can help you with this data. We can help you understand what we like to call your success zone. So if you are interested, type the word seminar in the chat. You're going to get a one-on-one booking link after that. And while we have some of these folks here, type that into the chat and you'll get that one-on-one booking link. Let's go ahead and summarize the 10 points. I am going to take a sip of water. Okay, that was a lot of talking. All right, so what do we have to summarize here? What are our 10 tips? Number one, opt for the right venue. This is super duper important. Venues say different things. They send different messages. And if you are doing virtual, guys, maybe think about a platform like Zoom versus GoToWebinar. No shame or hate on them, but I find Zoom to be much better from a user experience perspective. Number two is choose in-demand topics. The topics that work the best are going to impact everyone. And that's important because we want to cast that wide net. You can get specific, you can niche down, but there is more of a risk. Market to multiple channels, not just one channel, not just two. You should be marketing across 3 or 4 different channels. Call your registrants at least 2 times in advance. Sport the name tag. Remember, this is not just about you. This is about them and the crowd building that community with one another. Start with the story, but please, by all means, do not start with your story. Unless you can tie a really beautiful or, draw a line to the content, okay. But usually it's best to start with someone else's story or something relatable. Include visuals. Visuals are super important. 65% of us learn visually. Avoid the generic call to action by all means, please, whether it's at an event or in your marketing in general, spice it up a little bit. Make sure it's tangible and it talks about the value they walk away with. Use the sticky note method. This is time and time again shown to work really, really well. And then finally, consider partnering up. So if you are thinking about doing events, my advice to you is to partner up. And this is another reason why. If you look at the left-hand side of the screen, I want to talk about this for a minute. I would be ignorant if I didn't come out and say in front of all these advisors on the line right now, I've heard time and time again, seminars are old school. I don't want to do old school marketing anymore. I want everything to be digital. But that could not be further from the truth. Seminars work really, really well. However, the old way of doing them, where you've heard these horror stories and advisors try to take them on their own. Yeah, that I wouldn't want to do that either if I were an advisor. In fact, I completely advise against that. There's so much going on when it comes to an event. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of factors. So instead of looking at it through the lens of, I'm just going to avoid this altogether, because you are really cutting yourself short from potential clients that you could get in the future. Instead, think about the outsourcing method, which is absolutely the way to go with event marketing. I have the 3 little letters here on the screen, PBM. Guys, what that means is performance-based marketing. So here's the caveat when I tell you to outsource your event strategy, unless you have a huge internal marketing team, and even then they should have experience with events. PBM is performance-based marketing. This is something that White Glove offers to anyone who hosts a webinar or a seminar with us. What this means is you pay for performance. So if we put together an event for you and we say 20 households are going to show up, but only 10 households show up, you are only paying for 10 households. I don't know of any other company in this space that exists under this model. I could be wrong, but I really have never heard of one. And I think that is super powerful because you are hedging your risk against events, right? Again, there's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of different moving parts. Leave it to the experts. And even then, if we can't get something right for you, we have that performance-based marketing model in place. We also have a guarantee in place. So I'll go back a couple slides really quickly. Remember, if you're interested in learning more about your specific location, the prospects in your area, what types of topics should you be focusing on in your area, if there's any saturation or not, or even if you're thinking about doing a digital webinar with us, you can type the word seminar in the chat. We're going to send you a one-on-one booking link to go ahead and book your free personalized seminar strategy session. We went ahead and summarized the topics, and now we are going to talk about Q&A. We're going to open up to some of your questions. Now, I am bringing on one of White Glove's experts. Her name is Melissa, and she's been with White Glove for over 7 years. She is a senior vice president at the company. She loves helping advisors succeed with events. She loves it even more when advisors come back and they're like, hey, I want to do another event. We all get very, very excited about that. So now is your chance. Now is your chance to ask us any of your questions about event marketing. I see that there is some really good Q&A here in the Q&A box. Remember, this is the best place to post your question. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. And I see a lot of you want a time, and so I will make sure that you get a Calendly link, even email it to you after. Do we have everyone's email address, Diana, if they signed up?
Yep.
Okay, because I didn't get to everyone yet, but
Okay.
I want to send them a link so they can get on our sales reps calendar. But happy to answer these questions as well. The first one, I think, Diana, is probably for you. Are you sending the slides and the recording of the webinar?
Yes, I am going to send both. So you will get both. And I actually meant to say at the beginning here that you would get both of these, but to also write things down that really resonate with you. The reason I always say that is because our brains are going to remember it more when we write it down. But no matter what, you're going to get these slides. So we will be sending these out. And as Melissa mentioned, if you typed the word seminar in the chat, or in the Q&A, the system will tell us, Zoom will give us a copy of the chat after the fact. So we'll make sure to send you a link. Okay, I'm going to throw some questions at you, Melissa. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So I like this one from Shelly. Shelly says, for in-person events, digital invites or mailers?
They both work. Now, the mailers seem to work better for dinner events than digital, but that doesn't mean that they won't work for educational. So they both work. They both work. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was actually just looking at some of our marketing this morning as I was prepping for this webinar, and I saw how the marketing shifts a bit when you're doing the mailers, right? There's a bit more of a sophisticated feel, and you could even think about like 2-day workshops or 3-day workshops. Like they're a bit more sophisticated, especially when you're doing those dinners. So I could not agree more with you. Thank you for that, Melissa. So looking through some of the other questions here, Lisa Burns asks, what is the best contact management system to manage attendees and their contact info?
Sure. So of course, I'm going to tell you the best one that I know of. It's White Gloves Nurture and Engage. So our Nurture and Engage program, we will contact every single one of the people who registered and attended, or those who registered and did not attend. In addition, you can take all of your leads and contacts in your CRM, put them in, and we will continue to send educational newsletters to them. We will send links to things that you can pick, or we will pick for you to keep top of mind and engaged. And we'll try to work to get people to schedule time on your calendar. So there are other CRM systems, but in terms of trying to engage prospects and nurture who you already have, and then try to turn leads into people who want to talk with you, our nurture and engage system can really help facilitate that. And it's $399, I believe, a month, maybe less expensive if you pay for the year. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's proven to show results, and happy to, have a demo on that as well.
I was going to say, is there a link that we could drop in the chat for anyone who's interested in learning more about nurture and
I'm
engage?
sure, I'm sure I could grab that.
Okay. And
Um,
if not, then for sure, Lisa, we'll send you that link. I like that you touched on the CRM piece too. For anyone who, maybe you're doing an event now on your own, or you're thinking about it, maybe you're not ready to talk to White Glove, whatever that looks like for you, you could also use your CRM. I used to work with Wealthbox, if you're familiar with that CRM, and I saw that some of our advisors at Wealthbox would also plug in event strategies into their CRM. So they have workflows for that. They have tags that they've used for people who signed up for the event, and then tags for people who registered. And then that would flow right into whatever email marketing system that they're using to then follow up and continue to nurture, which absolutely could be nurture and engage, or if you use other
sure.
tools. So super
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you for that, Melissa.
I I saw Christine's question, time, the length of time that a webinar or seminar could be. So I like to say your very first one, you should do it for 90 minutes. And if you end early, no one's going to be upset.
Right.
But then after that, 60 minutes, once you feel in the groove. And the reason that I say 90 is because people are going to ask questions at the end, and you may go over, you may not, know exactly the time and the cadence and how fast you're going to speak. And no one's going to be upset if you let them out early. The average time that all of our seminars and webinars, seminars are an hour, 60
Yep.
minutes, and then webinars are more like 45 minutes. So it just depends. You can always schedule it for a little bit longer and let them go early. But 60 minutes is our average for seminars in person, and then our webinars is 45 minutes.
Perfect. Yeah, that's like I find with the digital tools, there can be a little bit of that fatigue, and so
Mhm.
I think the 45-minute is perfect.
Right, right.
Okay, great question, Christine. Thank you for asking that. I'm sure other people have that same question on their mind. So someone asked if I could expand on the sticky note method. So I'm glad that you asked, because that one was probably the hardest tip out of all of them to try to get through in 1 minute, because I have so much to say about it. But the sticky note method is sort of an alternative to saying, here's a QR code, or here's my calendar link. As you have a room, a physical room full of people, and you're ready to move them into that next step, which in this case is always going to be booking a time with you. Or in some cases, it might not be a time. It might be that they just want to download a booklet or read some materials. They're just not ready yet. That's okay. But the big ultimate goal is that they book some time with you. And so instead of having that QR code or that link, what we do is we just tell the audience that we have taken very select times off of our calendar, and we've made them available for all of you today to ask us any questions, to get that free financial health checkup or that complimentary tax map. It should really align with what the seminar was about. So if you're doing a seminar on estate planning, then that should say, you should really articulate the sticky note as being that ticket to them getting an estate clarity visit with you, or asking any of those estate planning questions that they might have. You put those times in the back of the room on a whiteboard, and each sticky note represents a time that you've made available on your calendar. Usually when you host a seminar, you have somebody helping you, an assistant or somebody from your office. If you're just a one-person show, maybe it's your spouse that's coming with you. We've seen kind of everything here, but they're usually sitting right by the front of the door. And as people go to grab the sticky note that works for them, then they will hand it to that person, whoever's supporting you, and they will write that down. Your team will send that digital follow-up, that digital calendar invite after the fact, with the meeting details, like the Zoom link, or however you usually conduct your meetings, the instructions to your office, whatever that looks like for you. There's something about social proof here. So like as soon as one person stands up to go grab their sticky note, what's happening now is there's some scarcity, because everybody else in the room is saying, oh my gosh, like I want to go get my sticky note before all the sticky notes are gone. I'm going to actually go back to this slide really quickly, because I loved what I've gotten some feedback. I do these seminar smarts in 60-second videos. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on whiteglove.com/Diana. But you can see here, the last one that I got was from a woman named Laura. She says, in the digital age, I'm stunned that this totally manual next step is the most effective thing we've tried for appointment settings in the booth. Your sticky note system is priceless. People told us over and over again how easy it made it to schedule a meeting. It just reduces friction. They stand up, they pick up a sticky note, and that's it. They don't have to get their phone out. They don't have to look at their calendar and then go to your calendar and try to book and add their email. There's too many steps in that, and we want to reduce that friction. So hopefully that answers your question there. And Melissa, if you want to add anything, please do.
I
All right.
think you covered it. I've been at White Glove for 7 years, and we've been using the post-it note method the entire time. And yes, all of the things that you said, it really does help to set a little bit of urgency, to let them know that you've got time set aside for them, and then they can pick their time. So it really does benefit.
I agree. And then Christine has a cool question about like the electronic version. So I haven't thought too much about this. Melissa, maybe you have a tip there. I don't know. What
What was
first
the
comes to
question?
mind? She wants to know about an electronic version of the sticky note method for webinars.
So we have on our webinars, we have a web concierge who is there with you the entire time, manning your chat box, and we will work with you because we can pre-record
Yep.
or we could do it live, and you get a session with them ahead of time. But they do pop-ups, they do polls, and so they can facilitate things like that on a webinar to get people to engage and get people to schedule time. And you could even say something like this, the sticky note method. Listen, I've cleared off my calendar for the next 2 weeks. I have, Monday evenings and Tuesday mornings and, Thursday afternoons available. So please put in the chat which time works best for you, and then I will be scheduling that on your calendar within the next, couple of hours or immediately after the webinar or something like that. So our web concierge will work with you to get those polls and those pop-ups and facilitate whatever it is that you would like to have happen.
That's awesome. Yes, the web concierge is a huge help. And I love how you said it could just be like it could even be little virtual sticky notes on the screen with different times. And you can say, all right, if you're here, type in the chat which time works for you. And the thing is when you are digital, it's okay to be a little bit more digital, right? It's just when you're in person and you need people to whip out their phones and immediately lose their attention, it's not the best strategy for that next step. So again, Christine, awesome question. Melissa, back to you too, because I know that you and your team are really close to sort of the post webinar follow up, especially the nurture and engage system that we use at White Glove. But someone says, what is the best call script for people that didn't book appointments at the workshop?
Yes, absolutely. So we have call scripts that we could, happy to share. We actually have what's called White Glove University, and anyone who works with White Glove has access to White Glove University, and literally any kind of how do I convert someone? What are best practices? What does a actual seminar look like? And we have videos. It's all in there. So I went off on a tangent because I'm so excited about White Glove University. What was the question?
It's totally okay. The question was, that's a good question.
Sorry, I'm so
I already
sorry.
marked it answered. So,
Oh, okay.
the best call script for anyone who doesn't
Oh,
at the workshop.
yes, 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 yes. So, I would probably just say, hey, I'm so glad that you came to the event. You might not be ready to schedule a time with me right now, but I do have, and then you always need to have a carrot. So I do have a tax clarity analysis or social security analysis or a free estate plan if you want to come in. And I would be happy to do that for you free of charge. So I would just leave a message like that. But more importantly, if they don't schedule a meeting with you, that does not mean that they're not going to become a client. That just means they're not ready to become a client at that moment. And so what really needs to be the focus at that point is getting them into a cadence to send emails valuable emails, not spam emails, but valuable emails with links to articles. Send them, a newsletter with important information that is of value. So when they are ready, you're top of mind.
Yep, that is awesome advice. Okay, so Peter noted in the Q&A that you are looking for a link, so we'll be sure to send that your way. Loic, yep, we will send the slides and the recording. Loic has 4 seminars coming up. Amazing. Oh my goodness, how exciting.
That
In
is
fact,
great. Good
that's
for you.
awesome. In fact, when you get these slides, folks, they actually don't end on our Q&A. What I've done is I've added some more information for you, some data that we have at White Glove, and some success stories. This is Kurt Stahl. If you click the link on the PDF that you'll get, I highly recommend you listen to his story. He actually started his business with seminars, and most people try to say, oh, well, you have to have a lot of money, or it's just such a big investment. He started with seminars and he immediately got success, and he is thriving with estate planning content, and I think he's done a few other ones. But anyway, I'd highly recommend that you listen to Kurt's success story. Okay, so yes, Nora, there is a replay. We will send that your way. Okay, this is another one, Melissa. What is the best date and time for seminars?
Okay, I had to unmute myself because I
It's
was
okay.
typing. I was typing for people to contact. The best date and time. That is a great answer. So our data shows us that 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. get the best results in terms of people attending. So we focus on 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Now, some areas 6 p.m. may not work because of traffic patterns, etc. 5:30. 11 is before lunch, so we're doing an a.m. event and a p.m. event, and then days and times. The only time that I would suggest that you don't do it is Friday night, Saturday night, or anytime Sunday. There are different, like for example, if you're in an area of the country where there's always events every Wednesday in your community, evening may not work for your community, but there's a very small difference between if Mondays work better than Thursdays work better than, it just really depends. Mondays pull really, really well. And then I think that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, some areas, Saturday mornings work. It's just minuscule, the difference beyond Monday. But Mondays are pulling the best right now. That's not to say that any other day of the work is not good, just a percentage difference.
Got it. That's super cool. I didn't actually know that tip myself.
Yeah.
So for future content, love it. Okay, so I know we have a lot more people in the chat that have requested a link. So we will get to those. It looks like we got a couple questions left. We still have a ton of people on the line with us. So advisors, if you're here and you're thinking about all this information we've shared with you, you have any other questions, it could be event related, it could be webinar, seminar, or even white glove questions directly. You have some of the folks here on the line, expert Melissa, feel free to ask any additional questions. This is an interesting one. And Melissa, I'm a little hesitant on this one myself, just because we are immersed in the world of marketing for advisors, and that translates to filling their pipeline, and that translates to helping them get more meetings booked. And then from there is sort of a unique sales process that every advisor takes on for their firm. So Kevin is asking, what are your best tips for closing after a highly attended seminar and after the prospect received their complimentary financial assessment?
So are you asking closing after they've come to your office?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be very transparent about that. Doing a seminar or a webinar is a way for you to get in front of the community, educate them, and interview to become their financial advisor.
Yep.
What you do once you get them back in your office doesn't change from what you would do anytime you get someone in your office, whether they came from a seminar, a webinar, or referral. None of that changes. So what you're selling them and doing with them once you're back in their office with them, as long as you provided the free carrot to get them there, would remain the absolute same. There is no difference to that pivot to get them to become a client. The close ratio should be the absolute same. The purpose of the webinar and seminar is to get you in front of more people and get more people back to your office with you. However, we do have trainings in White Glove University that can help with the, getting people from in your office to client. And it's more than just a few little notes that I can make on this webinar, but your focus primarily would be using the seminar and the webinar to get people there and then convert them the way you always do when you get people into your office. That wouldn't change.
Great tips. And also, you just kind of gave me some idea there is when you host a seminar, even more than a webinar, like webinars are awesome. There's, pros and cons to both, right? But if you do host an in-person event and you shake someone's hand, you are warming up that prospect so much faster than any blog post will ever do, than any, social media graphic will ever do. It's a different kind of relationship. It's that sort of that gut check, right? When you're doing a gut check in person, it's usually in that handshake and how you feel someone's energy and the way they present themselves. You don't get that online, so it takes a lot longer to form that gut check. And so that's what I love about seminars is they sort of speed up that process of warming up those prospects. So agreed, like don't change your process, but just know when you do these seminars, you're casting a wider net, you're growing your distribution channels a lot faster, and you're going to speed people up into that meeting faster as well. So there's so many benefits to hosting educational workshops. So thank you, Kevin, for that insightful question. Christian has a question as well, and this is going back to sort of the tip that I talked about calling your registrants in advance. Is it okay to leave voicemail when following up with people that didn't book appointments? What is the best voicemail script to make them act?
Yeah. So I think creating a sense of urgency for them. So, if you came to my workshop, Diana, and you didn't schedule an appointment and I was calling, I would say, "Hi, Diana, I'm so glad that you came to the event. If you have any outstanding questions, please let me know so I can get you on my calendar." There was so much feedback from that seminar, webinar. I had so many people wanting to get their questions answered. So my time is limited, but I am happy to see if I can work within your schedule. Hit me up and give me a time that works for you, and we'll get those questions answered. Another thing you can say, and I would say this in the seminar actually, if you already have a financial advisor, that's fine. I get it. But I want to point out one thing for you to think about tonight. If you already have a financial advisor and you're here to get educated, think to yourself, why are you not calling your financial advisor? And why are these questions not already answered?
Oof.
I'll be your partner in that. So you could even say, like if someone wrote on their eval, "Thanks for the info, already have a financial advisor." You could even say that on your voicemail. "Hey, Diana, I see that you already have a financial advisor. So excited you were able to come to the event and get an education. I want you to think about something though. If all of your questions were answered by your financial advisor, you wouldn't have been there. And I am available to answer all of your questions and see if I can't lead you down the path of your retirement." So again, letting them know that you've got a busy schedule, you got so many people interested in wanting to meet with you, and then if there is that other financial advisor in the mix, you can always use that as something that maybe they didn't think about.
I wish that this mic wasn't connected because I just like want to drop it right now because that was so good, Melissa. And I would also say, like, I just saw a post on LinkedIn. Her name is Jackie Wilk. She's amazing. She's a big advocate for advisor events. And she posted the other day about using like wedge gap language or something around that nature, where it's like,
Yes.
how do you wedge that gap between you and the other advisor?
Mhm.
That is such a powerful way to do it. Like, if you have an advisor, well, you're here because they're not answering all of your questions. I'm here as a resource for you. And hey,
Yes.
folks, maybe it starts with one account and then they start transferring other accounts. So super duper powerful. And we know if you're on the line today, you are obviously interested in educating your community. You're, dedicated to helping people with their financial plan, with their financial well-being, if you will. So you definitely deserve a shot at people who aren't getting the same amount of help. And there are people out there who have been burned in the past by advisors. It's an unfortunate reality. So I think that is a perfect thing to say. Christian asks, is it advisable to shake hands and connect with seminar attendees as they walk in prior to my presentation?
Absolutely. So this is, again, my advice is that you would have a table and you would have an assistant or a significant other, a friend, hire your babysitter to come in, whoever it is, have someone else there to have them sign in. But then you are standing there just saying, "Hi, welcome, glad you're here. Hey, listen, if you have anything you want to get out of tonight, write it on the back of the evaluation form. And if I don't cover it, I'll get that evaluation form at the end and I'll be able to answer those questions in, our one-on-one or in an email after." So absolutely walk the room. People want to be educated, but they also want to make a connection. And it's
Yeah.
not often that people want to talk about their money and their finances with someone that isn't making them feel comfortable. So read the audience. If the audience is really casual, take off your sports coat. You can always, dress down,
Yeah.
dress nice to begin with. You can always roll up your sleeves, but walk around, say hello, offer people water, make sure they're comfortable. 100% work the room as they're walking in.
That is great advice. I love the dressing down piece because you just never know. I always think it's important to dress a step above what you think people might dress, but as they start walking in and you realize, like, I want to get on the same level as them because I want to be relatable to them, which is a whole other topic we could talk about with marketing and psychology. But yes, take off that sport coat, like, just get more relaxed and casual. That is powerful advice. Thank you so much, Melissa. And it looks like we don't have any other questions. So I'm going to do one final call. We're almost to the top of the hour. Melissa, you've been super duper helpful. Hopefully, folks, you found these tips
I
helpful.
haven't gotten to everybody yet, but I will get to everybody a
Yeah.
calendar link so you can schedule time on our salespeople. I'm so excited that you guys have the interest there. So I will do it. I promise. I'm trying to multitask, so I'll get to them.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
our team of executive marketing consultants, they are very wise. They have seen what's working for other advisors. They're well trained, and a lot of them have been with us for quite a while. So they've worked for a few years with advisors on the topic. So you will really enjoy it. In fact, I can see in the chat, some of you are giving shout outs to our people. Like Miriam is getting shout outs, Michaela Cooper is getting shout outs. This is really, really cool to see. So thank you folks for sharing the love, the white glove love from our team. And it looks like Kenneth said he's already talking to Jessica Baker. She's also a rock star. So yes, if we haven't gotten to you, we will, but this is the last call for questions or comments. If you want to type in the chat what you thought about the session, please do. Any feedback, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it looks like. We really want to continue doing more of these sessions to help you sort of mentally take on events and then, lean on us as you need to with the actual event logistics and planning and marketing and promo. Or again, if you're just dipping your toe in the water and you might want to take something on your own, that's okay too. We're here to support you. Our goal is to educate on the topic because we truly believe that advisors who host events successfully can feel that magic, right? There is a certain magic that you feel with hosting a really awesome event. Just like for me as a speaker, there's a magic in getting in front of you right now and doing this webinar, and it makes me feel really, really good. It's the same when you get to share your voice as an advisor and all of that knowledge you have up here, because you have a lot of it and the world needs that knowledge. So there's so many layers to this: financial literacy, you getting clients, you feeling fulfilled. There's a lot of layers to hosting successful events. So I don't see any other questions coming in. If you guys want to leave anything, you can. A few follow-ups. If you type the word seminar in the chat before we hang up here, we're going to make sure that we send out the links. And if you don't get a link today live on this seminar, because some of you looks like you've already hopped off, we will be sure to email you a personal link that you can use to book on our marketing consultant's calendar. So if you don't get one again in the chat, we will email you. Again, you're going to get a copy of these slides and you're going to get some additional info in the slides as well, like some data, some insights, success stories, a little bit more on performance-based marketing, and where you can go to schedule your free seminar strategy session. So we'll send all of these slides your way. Thank you all so much for coming, for being part of this awesome webinar. Melissa, you were fantastic.
Oh,
Thank
goodness. Thanks.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your insights. Everyone, we hope you have a fabulous rest of your Tuesday, and we will catch you on the next session. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.